Hi everyone, welcome to another session of live of the Learn Microsoft Fabric with Merdot. And I'm very excited to start this session. Let me see what's happening there. Okay, cool. So we are at the session 8, yeah, and very welcome. And let's just kick it off and see what's happening there. Let me bring my slide up this side and see what this session offers to us. So before starting, if there is any comment, question from the previous sessions or whatever that is concerned, yeah, let's have them in the comments. If not, we can start the session. Cool. Let me start with this. I'm Merdad Abdullahi, and I'm a Microsoft Learn expert and a principal data architect. I'm also a leader of a Microsoft Learn community. Yeah, and there is my social. If you would like to connect with me in LinkedIn and other social medias, feel free to follow me there, and let's just having a chat there. I'm actually now the leader of this community in Microsoft Learn. It is called Microsoft Fabric Cafe, which is a fantastic place for learning and actually learning with fun. Feel free to join that one. It is an official learning room for Microsoft Fabric and Microsoft Learn learning rooms. And yeah, let's chat more there, and we can have a lot of fun. A lot of actually events are coming up in that community and learning room. There's also a LinkedIn group that you can join for Learn Microsoft Fabric with me, and we can just chat more there. You can just share your badges, if you accomplished your challenges. By the way, have you completed your challenge for the Microsoft build or not? So we planned for 8 sessions. The seven sessions were completed. That was fantastic. A lot of positive energy and feedbacks came through, and we are now at the last session of Microsoft Build Edition Challenge. Of course, these live sessions are going to be completed, are going to be continued until we feel that the DP-600 exam is actually we are ready for that exam, and we can just write for the exam. There are a lot of things that needs to be discussed still about data activator, about the semantic models, how we're gonna work with them, and some other stuffs. But for today, in session 8, we basically work on loading data into Fabric data warehouse, and also just how to administer the Fabric, the Microsoft Fabric. It's for admin guys. We basically work on 2 modules. Yeah, let me just see the comment from Javier. Hey, Javier. Welcome. Not yet, but for sure I finished before the 21st. Yeah, please do. It must be completed prior 21st, and I just completed that. I know, as we are all learning together, and mine was completed last night. Exactly the time that I was preparing the slides, and I completed at the same time. But good luck with that, and just share your badge when you have completed that. Cool. They basically Yeah, the module that we are going to work on for data warehouse is called load data into a Microsoft Fabric data warehouse. Here we're gonna just find out the different strategies to load data into a data warehouse within Fabric, and we will learn how to build the data pipeline to load a warehouse in Microsoft Fabric, and how to using the T-SQL there, and also transforming and loading data using the data flow. But since we have discussed the data pipeline and data flow previously in session, I think, number 4, and we also, had a brief discussion about the data warehouse in session number 5. I'm not going to repeat myself because if you missed them or you haven't watched them yet, you can just have a look at at the session 4 and 5 to just make you familiar with pipelines, data flows, how to use them, where to create them, and how to manage them, basically. And also, if you would like to have a fundamental, information about the data warehouse, you can just have a look at the session number 5. Cool. It is basically in a data warehouse, when we are talking about loading the data, we involve with two kind of processes, that it can be ETL or ELT. For the ETL, we're basically extracting, transforming, and loading the data. Once the data is loaded, we can just use that in the analytical tools like Power BI, right? Or creating the reports on top of that, or whatever that is required there. The other type is that ELT, when we extract data, load it somewhere in the lakehouse, for example, or data warehouse, then we transform it and again load it to the warehouse for analytical purposes. And it depends on different situations, that what you are looking for, and how your data is going to allow you in which type of for example, these kind of ways to load your data and transform it. But about the strategies of the data, we talked about ETL and ELT. Previously, we discussed them, but it was a quick review of these two. But when we are talking about ELT and ETL, 3 items are going to show up there. And first of all is data ingestion and extraction, right? We basically moving the data, moving actually the raw data. It is talking about moving the raw data from the different sources into a single repository of the data. Let's say we have the data in our Lake storage, or we have it in Amazon, for example, data storage. Then bring everything in one place in Fabric, let's say in the Lakehouse, for example. Then we have a step of data loading, right? Which is going to actually involve the taking the transformed and process the data. Process data into a destination, which is going to be our final storage into a data warehouse. So the data can just be brought from the lakehouse, being processed, being transformed, being joined with different data within your lakehouse or even your data warehouse. Then it is going to be loaded as a table, for example, in your data warehouse for analysis and or reporting. Within this process of the ETL and ELT, we may encounter with staging the data, right? Previously, if you remember well, we discussed that we have 3 type of tables in a data warehouse, which is the fact tables, dimension tables, and a third table, which is called integration tables, that are also called as staging ones. That basically they are a temporary storage in ingestion and transformation process. You use them for loading the data there. It is there. Then from that temporary data, you can just work with that. They can be processed. And of course, that table or file location can be at the same location as data warehouse or even somewhere else. It depends how you gonna manage your file and how it is going to be accessible for you, and what is the strategy of the whole organization, and how you're gonna design your pipelines and your data project. When it comes to the loading of the data, we have two types of volume of data that we are going to load. We can have the full load of the data, which is basically called initial load, and also we have the incremental load. So the full load or initial load, as its name is showing, that it is basically populating the data warehouse for the first time, or even when we want to have a complete refresh of our data. While in the incremental one, it is only updating the data warehouse with the changes since our last execution, our last update of the data warehouse. In the full data load, all tables are going to be truncated and they again reloaded. Of course, the old data is going to be lost, right? But in incremental load, we have actually a history of the data, and basically the tables are going to be updated with new information, while we have the previous data as well in the same table or other tables based on the type of based on the type of the the strategy that you are taking for transforming your data and loading your data. In the full data load, it takes longer. It has a lot of data there, while in incremental one, it takes less, of course, less than the full load. However, it depends on the complexity of your data. Of course, for data, full load, it is much easier to implement. Just load everything from, for example, point A to point B, done. But in order to have an incremental load, it's gonna involve more implementation, more complex implementations. That is going to involve the history of the data. Just look for the previous values, how we're gonna manage them, how we're gonna mark them as valid or invalid, or active or inactive. For example, record that which of them is the latest one, right? So we will have to manage that trail of the of our change data. So of course, the full load is best for new data warehouse, as we mentioned, or a complete refresh. And in the incremental load, it is best for loading updates to the data warehouse and when history is important there. We previously brought an example of a customer who is going to change his location. If we don't bring the history of that customer, then we will lose his history of purchases. So if previously he was living in the States and moved to Canada, for example, now if we don't have that incremental load, if we don't have that history of location of that customer, then all the history from US is going to be gone, right? Cool. We talked about the tables. We have the fact tables and dimension tables. The fact tables, which is containing the transactions of the data, that are the numbers, the facts against some, maybe summarized or aggregated based on the dimension keys. for example, the amount of sales or the quantity of items were sold actually in a store. And in the dimension tables, we have basically the descriptive data that is going to be actually considered as just some questions where that for example sales happened, what was sold, and when it was sold, when and who was actually the the seller, who was the receiver, and why it was done and how it was done, right? So we will answer these questions, and it is a descriptive actually answer for these kind of questions that we can actually find the result in the fact table, right? In dimension tables, we previously discussed that we can have slowly changing dimension, right? For those dimensions that are going to be changed over time, like the customer location, right? And we have different types of this SCD that we can implement. We can use when we are implementing a pipeline, for example, for loading the data. It doesn't have to be as part of the pipeline, but we can just use this strategy of one of these types that we can even implement in our TSQL. So the types that we have 7 types of SCD. Type 0 is that it says the dimension attributes never change, right? And so it is going to be as is. For example, the count of or the name of the month, it is not going to be changed. It is we can leave it as is. And in the type 1, it is going to overwrite existing data, and it doesn't keep the history, right? And it is type one type of the SCD. When we don't need the history, it is going to, for example, just reload everything. It is going to truncate the table and then load the new data. The next type, which is the common type in data warehousing, and when we are loading the dimensions, is type 2. It is going to add new records for changes and keeps full history for a given natural key, right? Basically, when we are talking about adding a new record, it means that we may have different records, more than one records per one instance of an entity. For example, a customer and for each location we can have different records, but the latest one actually is going to be the active record, right? Active record of the dimension. When we have more than one record of same instance in one entity in the dimension table, we must have one active record there. In type 3, we have the history. The history is going to be added as a new column, right? That it can just have start date and end date, for example, right? These two are the common, types of the SCDs that are used a lot. We use mostly in type 2, and if you remember well, we talked about the surrogate key and basically the and the other key, actually the business key, right? That the surrogate key is going to be utilized for being used actually in the fact table when we talked about the dimensions and how they are going to change over time. The type 4 is talking about a new dimension is added. Basically, a new table is going to be added to the data warehouse. These are very hard really to implement, and it is very rare to use them, to be honest. And for type 5, it says when certain attributes of large dimension change over time and using the type 2 is not feasible, and to the dimensions, large size. Type 5 can be used, and in type 6, it is going to become combination of type 2 and type 3. Cool. In order to load data, in order to ingest data actually into the data warehouse, we have different ways. It is data pipelines, data flow Gen 2, which we discussed them before. I don't want to repeat myself. And we have also cross-warehouse querying that we can basically read the data from other data storages within the same workspace in Fabric. For example, from another data warehouse or from a lake house within the same workspace. We can also utilize the copy into command, which is a TSQL command that we can load the data from a live location, right? Like in the Azure storage. Today we are going to just talk about the copy into command and cross warehouse, which for those two we talked about that for the data pipeline and data flows, and how to create them in session 4. I think we are good, but if you have any question regarding them, feel free to ask and we can just address them. For copy into command, it is a favorite thing, of course, for the SQL developers, and you're gonna utilize, actually execute a single TSQL script with no need to create any other, database objects. This copy into command is going to be, useful in these situations, and actually there are some benefits of that you can, parse and load the CSV files. You can use a different location for error file location, which is a good thing, where the CSV is going to be processed for ingestion. You want to load the data from there. There might be some errors, right? And that error, that rejected rows are going to be stored somewhere else, and you can store it in your Azure Blob storage, for example, somewhere else. And you can customize the default values for each target column and specify the source data column, source data fields for mapping. You can just change your mapping, right? You can specify a custom row terminator where when we are talking about the CSV comma separated values. Of course, we have a row terminated, and in most of the cases are the new row, right, or a new line, and the inter. But we can have a custom terminator there, and also a field code that is going to be can be customized, and how our CSV file is containing that. In order, actually, we can utilize the SQL Server date format for CSV files. We can specify wildcards and multiple files in the storage location path. When we have a distributed files of the same structure, basically, for example, we have a large volume of the sales data that cannot be stored in one file, which is not ideal to store everything in one file, and rather we have the distributed data in different CSV files. Then we can just have everything in one path, in one directory in the, for example, Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Then we just you use the star.csv in that file path, and you don't have to specify every individual files there, and condition that all of them are adhering to the same schema, the same structure, and also your destination is also having the same structure. So, with copy into, you will have an automatic schema discovery. You don't have to, per se, specify that. We mentioned that you can customize it, but you don't have to do it. It is going to automatically, discovered, and automatically, the table is going to be created. You don't have to create a table, somewhere else, in the other code, and specify the data types of the fields, stuffs. These are stuffs that SQL developers are familiar with, and you don't have to do that. You just say copy into from this file, done, right? And it is going to directly load the complex data from Parquet files, like maps and lists, that you don't have to basically reprocess them or pre-process them for having just converting them to a string column, for example. It is going to be done automatically. There are some limitations, of course, for this comment. The sources that you can now load the data from is Azure Blob Storage and Azure Data Lake Gen 2. The file types that we can work on in Fabric is a CSV and Parquet file with a recommendation minimum size of 4 megabytes. And error file location, like this source, is the Azure Blob Storage and Azure Data Lake Gen 2. And it is the syntax, the full syntax of this copy into command, which we have actually the schema and table name on top. It is going to be our destination. If we want to specify any column list there, and then from there, we can just say from what location this data is going to be loaded, the CSV file or Parquet file. Then we have some attributes in the bottom that we specify the file type. I know there is an ORC there. That ORC, I haven't found any. Actually, I haven't found any confirmation that this ORC is available in Fabric. For those who doesn't know that, it is an optimized row columnar format of the data, which is very optimized for analysis and also storing the data like Parquet. And you actually define the credential for the source of the data that you're gonna have. Like if you're reading the data from your Azure Data Lake storage, you're gonna need the SAS shared access secret and the other things. You can specify the error files here where it is going to be located in your storage account, of course, and lots of things. For more information, of course, you can just have a look at the documentation in Microsoft Learn and see what is going to work for you. We may test it later a little bit. The other type of loading the data, ingesting data into Fabric Data Warehouse, is the loading the data from other warehouses and lake houses, or in short, it is called cross warehouse. Previously, it was called cross platforms, right? But now it is called cross warehouse. We can just load the data from there. But it has to be in the same workspace when we want to just select them in the warehouse. Only available items are in the same workspace, and in order to reference the data assets there, you have to just follow that three-part naming. Of course, the first one is going to be lake house name or warehouse name. Then it's schema, then the table name or that data asset name. And how you're gonna load the data in your warehouse? With this, of course, a structure, you can select the data, you can join your data there, right? But if you want to load the data in your warehouse, you can make use of create table as that select statement, or even you can just insert into your existing table and then just do your select statements and whatever that you need. But for creating table, it's going to create the table from scratch. For inserting, it is for an existing table. So before jumping into the sorry, just let me. Cool. Sorry. Before jumping into the the knowledge check, let's have some exercise in the data warehouse side of the things, right? Let me bring it up and see what's happening there. Cool. Let's create a new workspace for ourselves and see, or even existing workspace that we have. And what workspace I am in? I'm in the my workspace. That's fine. And I would like to create my lake house there. Let me just go to the data engineering side of the things and creating lake house. Let's call it DP-600 lake house and session 8. Yeah. 08. Let me bring this data from GitHub and save it somewhere. Says CSV. Cool. And there, let's upload the file. It is a session number 1, right? When we're uploading the files into our lake house. Cool. The data should be loaded in our files now here, which is fine. And we can even have a look at the data, just like this. We have the header and the details underneath. So if we want to create a table, we can just let's just load it as a table. Load to tables. It is going to be a new table, and let's call it and staging cells. Use header for column name, the comma separator, which is good. Then load the data. So our data is added now in the table. Let's refresh it. It's still not showing. Yeah. Now the data is loaded here. Let's check it. And we can, of course, explore the data by using the SQL analytic endpoints. So the next step for us, what we are going to do. We have loaded the data in a file, right? And that file can be either in your lakehouse to create a table on that, and load the data via the technique of cross data warehouse, right? Or even you can just having your data in your Azure Data Lake storage or Azure Blob storage, then utilizing the copy into command, right? If you have subscriptions there in Azure, and if you have the possibility of loading the data from there, then you can just make use of that feature as well. But for this example, we are going to use the cross warehouse feature for loading the data. So let's say the data is loaded in our files, then we convert it to a table. Now let's move to our warehouse, right? And let's create a data warehouse, DP-600, data warehouse 08, and create that. We would like to create a fact table, a destination table, basically, for that is going to be fed from the data from that actually table that we have loaded in our lakehouse. So the script that is ready here, we will use this guy, and we can just have a look what is happening here, right? It is going to creating a schema underneath of these. The schemas are basically the the databases, right, in a warehouse. Then then we will create on that schema. Sorry, it is the schema. Then we can create the tables underneath of that. So it's checking if the table does exist or not. It is going to just change it and create a new table. And it is also creating a dimension of customer, a dimension of items, and also creating the relationship between the tables, right? And it is basically creating a the foreign keys to from the dimension customers, and the primary keys are going to be created for dimension customer and dimension of items. I think it is going to complain about that enforce stops, but yeah, that was successful. Awesome. And we can see the sales schema and the tables that are basically created there. It is going to be loaded. Yeah, the tables are here, and also whatever that we have in each table. Cool. The next one will be loading the data, right? Or creating a table from the data that we have in our lakehouse. But instead of this, what we should put for our first part of our naming, right? We need to add it from our data warehouse, which is by adding a data warehouse. This one is the one that we have created, and the type is SQL Analytic Endpoint, which is basically our lakehouse in the table section. And the schema, we can see that table that we have added there. We can either add our lakehouse name, which is DP-600 LH08, or even we can just drag and drop it and everything will be done. Just have a look at the data there and not creating a table for that. We can just see, hey, the data is there. What is it containing? We have the customer names, we have the items, and it is basic, and also the sales information. It is basically a flatten of the data, right? That we have everything in one place. And from there, we want to just load the data into our dimension table and fact tables by selecting the data. But for now, let's just load it as a staging table. And the next step for us will be loading the data into our staging one. In order to do that, we can create a start procedure, right, that is going to be continuously executed when we have a new data, of course, right? And what is it doing? Basically, it is going to load the data based on a parameter of order year. For what year we want to load the data for in our dimension of the customers, or the dimension of items, and also the fact table itself. So it is a start procedure. We only create that and we will execute it afterward. So what is it doing? It is going to insert a distinct value of the customer name and email addresses, for example, where it does not exist in the table, right? It is one way that Microsoft Learn just implemented. It depends on the complexity and the volume data of your dimensions, and what strategy you're gonna use, what kind of coding you're gonna use in order to identify the discrepancies, identify the differences between your source and your target table. Then you're gonna either load it or update them. But for this one, it is just inserting the records where it does not exist. It is the same story for dimension items. And for the fact table, it is doing some conversion of the data. For example, it is going to change the line numbers to integer, and for the amounts, it is just converting the data to float data type to have a better look of the data that we can utilize in our reporting and whatever that is required. So let's create this start procedure, and that start procedure is going to be shown up here, of course. Incorrect syntax name. Let me just check it. I think I just selected this guy alone, and it should be good now. Yeah, I by mistake selected that specific section. That was not a valid one, of course. And sorry, I'm just checking the lake house. Yeah, this start procedure now is there, and then we can just execute that start procedure. That start procedure can be executed, from here. No, unfortunately, there's only creation. That's fine. You can execute it like this. The input parameter here, you're selecting 2021. And the data is going to be loaded in these three tables, right? It is just started reading the data from that staging table and just transform it, whatever that is required. The part of transformation maybe was that conversion of the data, right? The text amount to float, for example, whatever that it was previously, but now it is going to be loaded in this fact table, for example. Let's see what's happening in the fact cells. We can see the data is sitting there, and a distinct list of customers and items are also added here. And we can just execute some analytical data on top of the fact tables and dimension tables. For example, here we are just checking the total sales per customer for that specific year, and it is just ordering the total sales per ordering by the total sales in descending mode. What customer had the most purchased, or even let me just check something here. And even the same story, can be happen for the items, right? That's where we have the items there. It can be, and the dimension that we are going to utilize for this guy is going to be the items. What item had the most sales, or even we can just add more conditions and even combining the dimensions there. It's easy. We can have more kind of the analytical scripts, more complex one like this. It is just using the CTEs for doing the analysis. For example, it is categorizing the cells and ranking the cells, which of them was the number one. For example, here it is going to just say bike was the number one and helmet was, and actually the number one of each item. For the category of bikes, this customer was this amount or the count of sales for that one. So we can have different more complex analytical reports like this. Cool. I think we're good for this one. We are not going to teach SQL or how to analyze the data. It is basically how we can create the database objects and data warehouse objects, and how we're going to utilize them, how to query them, and how the data is going to be loaded in our dimension and fact tables. I hope it was useful for this section. Let's move to our knowledge check for this module. Yeah, go on for this. And our next module will be the administrative section, and will be good. Just waiting for the results. Since there is a delay between the platforms that we are streaming from LinkedIn and YouTube, so I wait a little bit more and see if there is any answer for these questions. Let's just check our knowledge and how we learn together. I like this answer, Javier. AAA. Cool. What else? Anything more? Cool. Let's save time. AAA. And we can see for basically, in order to ingesting data into warehouse, a data warehouse in Fabric, we can use the copy statement, data pipelines, data as well as the cross warehouse. When we are actually there is a limitation, of course, for the loading the data in the copy statement. We can the sources that we can use is the Azure Data Lake Storage into an Azure Blob Storage, and the file types that we are going to load is Parquet files and CSV files. And there is a limitation, a recommendation actually of a minimum file size for 4 megabytes. Congratulations, you've completed another module of the Microsoft Fabric Build Challenge and Microsoft Build, Microsoft Fabric Learning Path, of course, for loading the data in Data Warehouse. If there is any question, you can just pop it in the chats, we can just answer them, afterward. So the next module that we are going to walk through is administering Microsoft Fabric, and which we are going to basically learn about the Fabric admin tasks, navigate the admin center, know if where we have actually access in our free trial, and how we're gonna manage the user access. Previously, we talked about in session number 1, we talked about some terminologies about the in Microsoft Fabric, right? And what is a tenant, what the capacity is, and what are the domains and workspaces and items there, and how they're gonna be defined there, and even how an admin can enable and use the Microsoft Fabric within an organization, or even for us individually. The role of the Microsoft Fabric, actually, Fabric admin, basically the roles that are going to be involved with admin staffs in Fabric are Microsoft 365 admins, Power Platform admins, and Fabric Capacity admin. They're going to somehow involve with different, sections of the admin tasks. And basically, the Power BI admins are going to transition to, or already transitions to Fabric admin. The tasks that an admin does in Fabric, right? They're in 4 categories basically. The first one is security and access control. They are ensuring that only the authorized users are going to have access to the sensitive data, and it can be done by setting up the RBAC's role-based access controls to define who can view and edit the content, right? And of course, for managing the users, managing those permissions, they're gonna utilize the Microsoft Intra IDs to manage them. And for in order to manage the security, one of the examples could be they are going to set up the data gateways when we are reading the data from the on-premises SQL Server, for example, on-premises data sources. The other task that an admin has in Fabric is the data governance. They must have a good understanding of the data governance. It is a required thing for them, and they know how to secure inbound and outbound connectivity within the tenant, and they must know how to monitor usage and performance metrics. They understand the metrics, what's happening there when something goes up or down. What does it mean? What does it mean? When is the rush hour? When the jobs can be performed basically, and they must know how to apply the data governance policies. We will talk about that later. Basically, it is going to be the right data for right people or authorized users. Another admin task that we have for Fabric admins is the customization and configuration of the tenant for the whole organization. They're going to customize it for specific usage and based on the the scenarios in their tenants and capacity even. They are going to define the data classification policies. They adjust the look and feel of reports and dashboards. And the other type of the task of the admins, we have the monitoring and optimization, that they monitor the performance and usage, and by configuring, monitoring, and setting alerts, right? And they're going to optimize the resources, how the capacity are going to managed, and what kind of, for example, capacity is going to be assigned to a group of users, and how the scaling is going to work when more resources are required by a capacity, right? And at the end, they're gonna troubleshoot the issues, in the data refreshes and data connectivities. The tools then that an admin is going to utilize within Fabric or Varied also. The first one is the Fabric Admin Portal. It is a web-based portal that they can manage all aspects of the platform, centrally in one location, and they can manage, view, and apply settings for tenants and capacity. Of course, for the trial versions, trial accounts that we are using, that I am using for Fabric, it is not available. I can just show you where we can find it. On top of the page, top right, in the setting, there is an admin portal, right, for governance and insights. But the only thing that is available for us is the capacity settings, because it is a free trial one. If we want more, settings, of course, we need to move to the tenant version of that and changing the premium. There, they can just manage users, admins, and groups, and they can access the audit logs there. They can monitor usage and performance. The other tool that admins like, I'm not a PowerShell, user. I like coding, but not the PowerShell one. But the PowerShell is also available for them, for those who love it. It is a simple command, that can be executed in PowerShell. Maybe one day I learn it and utilize it, but we are not admin. And it is very useful for admins and those, network lovers. It is going to be used for automating the common admin tasks by using this guy. For example, we can just run this PowerShell within your Azure portal, right? Or even your local PowerShell, but by connecting to your subscription, right? And there you can, some examples, you can use it to create or manage groups, right? Or configure your data sources. The other type of the tool that admins are going to utilize is the admin APIs and SDKs. What are the APIs and SDKs? It is more familiar for developers. It is going to enable developers to just interact with the other software systems, either by API, which is application programming interface. It is mostly as they are the endpoints and URLs, URIs that we can just utilize them to interact with the systems outside of ours. And we also have the SDK software development kit that they can be added as library in your coding environment, whatever that you are going to use. And then from there, using the APIs and SDKs to automate common admin tasks and actually interact with Fabric with other systems, through other systems actually. And some examples like what we had in the PowerShell one, that you can manage groups, or managing the items and whatever that is required there. And in the bottom, that we can see, we have a URL that is getting the users for that have access to an item of a workspace, right? And in the response, it is going to just provide the item that has access to that one. Another tool, the last one, I think, is the admin monitoring workspace. It is not also available in the trial section. It is available in the tenant version, and admins has access to it, of course, and they can just from there they can share access to the workspace or specific items within the workspace to users by using the Microsoft Entra ID. And it is going to include the feature usage, adoption, semantic models, and reports in order to provide them with the insights on the usage and performances. And it can be actually used to find the patterns and find the issues, and eventually it's gonna be troubleshoot. Where you can find it, in the basically, if you have access to that version of the, in the tenant, you can find it in your workspace section. Let me just bring it here. When we hit on the my workspaces, it should be somewhere here. But for us in the, for me in the, trial version, it is not available. But it is a new thing in Fabric. So we talked about the tasks of admin, right? Fabric admin. But there are two sections that we are going to talk more about them, about the Fabric security, how it's going to be managed basically by the admins. Admins, basically the security in Fabric is based on the security that we had on Power BI. The admins of Power BI are more, very familiar with that one. But let's just have a look at them and see what it has for us. In order to manage users, we can actually, admins can assign and manage licenses. What is a license? And it is basically the level of access and functionality that the users that can have within Fabric environments. Why should admin manage the license, right? It is going to provide the admin to ensure users have the necessary access to the data. It is going to limit access to the sensitive data, by assigning the licenses to users. So, and they're gonna, of course, monitor and control the costs that are, going to be added, for each user. For each user that we add license, it's going to add an expense to the company, to the organization. But if we just mitigate the unnecessary, licenses for the users who are not using them, we're going to save money, of course. And in order to do it better, to having a management of the licenses and users, of course, it is good to have a procedure and process for granting these accesses and how we're gonna control them. And these licenses can be done in Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And there's another management of the security in Fabric, which is related to the items and how we're gonna share them. So the items in workspaces, can be managed to how to access and share by users, of course, right? And basically, admin, they can just provide the privilege to the users to do that, right? And basically, there, admin can just manage how users can distribute and share, the items with other, with others, both internally and externally, when they want to share some items within the organization or outside of the organization. If they have the privilege to that, if they have permission to do that, then it is going to be managed there. And also, the items that can be managed by by admin and users are, mostly all of the items like warehouses, pipelines, semantic models, reports, and dashboards, whatever that is in a workspace. And in order to govern the data in Fabric, so there are basically three items that we're going to discuss about this. But before that, we need to make sure, we mentioned that admin must know and having the knowledge of the governance of data. Who must access to what data? Who is the right person to have to the right data, right? And just match them together. Of course, it is going to be part of the policies and strategies of the organization. But in order to do that, there are some features to that data governance. First of all, is the endorsing Fabric content. It is an essential governance feature to establish trust in your data assets by promoting them and even certifying the Fabric items. That all actually Fabric items can be endorsed except for the dashboard. And when we endorse the an item within workspace within Fabric, it is going to have a badge in the endorsement column there. Let's have a look at that one in our workspace. For example, in my workspace, there is an endorsement column here. I'm not sure if I have privilege to endorse that, but no. Of course, we need some features available in our trial one. But it was going to be available in that column for each item that is going to actually show if that item is a trusted one. And basically the users can rely on the accuracy of that data. And basically, the endorsements, let's say, that a specific item, that a specific asset is reviewed and approved. So users then can, rely on them. We have two types of endorsements, promoted and certified. For the promoted, workspace members can, with contributor or even admin role, admin permission can promote content within a workspace. And if we want actually the item to be promoted within the organization, across the whole organization, then Fabric admin can do it. And another type of the endorsement, which is the certification, has needs higher permissions than the promotion one, which is a more formal process. It is involving a more formal process that is going to be actually reviewed by an authorized person, and then it is going to be marked as certified when approval comes from that reviewer. And the whole process is going to be managed by admin, and it can be customized what kind of process is going to be taken within the organization. And non-admin users like me, if I need a certification, I should request it from the admin. And from there, you can just find item more and request certification. Let's see if we have it. For example, for this, there's the notebook. No, for example, let's have a look at this notebook. I don't find it here. It shouldn't be available. No, that's fine. And yeah, it was for the endorsement of the Fabric content, right? Admins are going to govern the data again by scanning for sensitive data. In order to do that, they can scan the metadata. Basically, metadata scanning facilitates the governance of data by enabling cataloging and reporting on all metadata of your organization's Fabric items. There is a scanner API, which is a set of admin REST API. It is going to allow the Fabric admins to scan the items for sensitive data. And it is going to be used for warehouses, pipelines, wherever that we have data there, right? Semantic models, reports, and dashboards. It is going to work for both structured and unstructured data. Admins also can track the data lineage. That's basically it is an ability to track the data through the fabric, where it is going to be started, where it is going to be extracted, how it is going to be transformed, and where it is going to be stored somewhere. So in this whole process, admin can just have a look at the that data, that it is going to be secured, and if there is any sensitive data there, it is going to be monitored. Cool. We're done with this module as well. Let's go with the knowledge check. Some of the admin stuffs was discussed in session 1, which was kind of architecture of Fabric, and basically some discussions that we had on the terminologies, right? But most of the discussion of administering Microsoft Fabric was done in this session. Cool. If there is any answer for these questions, we can just show them. Anything is there. If not, we can wrap up the session. Javier, AC. Now it is required, really, air condition. Yeah. It is going to be hot, but AC. Cool. Let's move to the next one. It is BC. Basically, the concept of capacity in Fabric is basically capacity defines the ability of a resource to perform an activity or produce output. We define a set of items, resources for a a capacity to just start, for example, for a data project. They're gonna just assign it for that one and then release it. So basically, the certification must be enabled in the tenant by admin, as we mentioned, and promotion can be done even by a workspace member. Cool, awesome, and congratulations, you have completed another module, but the last module of the Microsoft Build Edition. And if there is any question, we can answer them. We have completed the whole 8 sessions of Microsoft Build 1, but we will continue. And for the other things, of course, as I mentioned before, we're gonna slow down for the live sessions. There is no rush. We were in rush for this month of the challenge. We had 2 sessions per week, and but it is going to be slowed down, and we will have more time to study and prepare for the sessions. Yeah, just stay tuned in the LinkedIn and the YouTube, whatever that is your convenient one for the next sessions. And yeah, I've got the answers from Shanti. Yeah, let me just show you the answers B and C. Yeah, as I mentioned, there is a delay between the platforms. And so, Javier, where we can find info on cost? If you mean the costs of the let me bring it here, of the Fabric and pricing. I'm not expert at the the pricing one, of course, but we can just have a look at that one. Previously I had a search on that Fabric tenant pricing. There you can find how it is going to impact it, and for each capacity unit that we're gonna have, there is a fee per hour, and which kind of the SKU is going to be utilized there. If I'm not mistaken, the free trial that we have is the F64. It is this one, which is basically an hour per hour is $11, for example. But I will just put it in the chat. I hope it's going to be, oh, it is only added to the YouTube. Let me just add it to LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn. Let me check. Cool. It is added to the LinkedIn. Thank you, Shanti. Thank you for joining. If there is any question, Javier, you can just have a look at this one. The fabric capacity, it is pay as you go, and you can just have a look at this one. Even for the one lake storage, what kind of storage you're gonna need, and how it is going to be, be costed for you. And for mirroring of the databases in each of these guys, the SKUs that we have, how many actually the storage of the free mirroring, as you know, the database mirroring is a free thing, a free offer by Microsoft Fabric. That how how much of the storage it is going to give us in terabytes, in this 64 terabytes, for example, for the one that we are using now. And the other thing is, of course, you can have a pricing calculator to see how it is going to cost to your organization. Cool. I hope it answers your question, Javier. And if there is nothing else, we can wrap up the session. If there's a question, we can just answer them if we know the answer, of course. Cool. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining. Thank you for following. And stay tuned for the next live sessions that we're going to have on the next, maybe next week or the other one. It depends on how I'm going to be free. As you know, I'm just, busy in the Microsoft Fabric Cafe as well. So there we will have, more fun there. And just stay tuned for that one as well. If you haven't joined, feel free to join that one. In the beginning of the session, we shared the QR code to join to that community. And if you like this video, you like this live event, just give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you joined late, or you were late for this one, you missed a part of this live session, it is going to be immediately available in the YouTube channel. You can just rewatch it and share it with your friends. And until the next time, take care.